Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome back to this special edition of Talkin and Grubbin. I'm back with more of my top 10 GOAT Super Bowl champions. At number 5, I have the 1992 Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys were just coming off their first winning season under head coach Jimmy Johnson, where they ended up losing in the divisional round. And they felt like they were very close to contending and ultimately winning a Super Bowl. They just needed someone to shore up that defense, and they would get it, in an unlikely source, as the Cowboys ended up trading for Pro Bowl, two-time Super Bowl champion Charles Haley from the San Francisco 49ers, the linebacker. So they definitely felt he was the main key of shoring up that defense and giving them a great chance to ultimately win a Super Bowl. They also had a pretty nice draft that year as well, as they drafted Pro Bowlers Kevin Smith, Robert James, Jimmy Smith, and Darren Woodson. So now the Cowboys finally got that piece that they had long been waiting for, and they felt like they were ready to go and win their first Super Bowl in 15 years. And they got off to a great start in the 1992 season as they went 3-0. Coming out of the bye week, yeah, they stumbled a little bit in a few games with losses to the Eagles, Rams, and Redskins, but they won 10 out of their last 13 and finished with a 13-3 record. Excuse me. They won the NFC East title and also secured the number 2 seed in the NFC. And their offense was pretty dominant. They were fifth in total offense, averaging 350 yards per game. They were fifth in passing, averaging 217 passing yards per game. They were fifth in rushing, as they averaged 132 rushing yards per game. They were tied for sixth in passing TDs, which they had 23 passing TDs per game. That averaged out to 1.4 TDs per game. They were third in rushing TDs with 20 rushing TDs, which averaged to 1.25 TDs per game. And they were second in total points, as they averaged 25.6 points per game. And they were top 10 in almost every defensive category. They were first in total defense, giving up 245 yards per game. They were fifth against the pass, giving up 167 passing yards per game. They were first against the run, giving up 77.8 yards per game. They were fifth in points allowed, giving up only 15 points per game. They were 13th in sacks, as they finished with 44 sacks. That was 2.75 sacks per game. And they were tied for 18th in total takeaways with 31 total takeaways. Cowboys, they got the regular season behind them, and they were ready for the postseason. And they came out with a bang in the divisional round against their bitter NFC East rivals, Philadelphia Eagles. They dominated them 34-10. And now they were one win away from punching their ticket to the Super Bowl. And the the team that won the last few Super Bowls in the San Francisco 49ers stood in their way. But the Cowboys were not intimidated by that, as they went on the road in San Fran and knocked off the 49ers 30-20 to advance to the Super Bowl for the first time in about 15 years. And on to Pasadena they went. They were going up against a great Buffalo Bills team in the Super Bowl, but early in the game, quarterback Jim Kelly ended up going out due to a leg injury, and the Cowboys pretty much dominated Super Bowl 27, 52-17. The defense was definitely definitely on point, as they forced 4 interceptions, also forced two fumbles. Well, excuse me, recovered 2 fumbles, and the offense was just cooking. And this all ended up in the Cowboys' first Super Bowl title since 1977. Their first under head coach Jimmy Johnson. So after 3 unsuccessful seasons, it all paid off, and the Cowboys finally won their Super Bowl under head coach Jimmy Johnson. Troy Aikman earned Super Bowl MVP as he went 22 of 30 for 273 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and a QBR rating of 140.7. But Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin definitely would not be outdone. Emmitt Smith had 108 rushing yards and a touchdown. Michael Irvin had 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this was the beginning of something special for those 90s Cowboys teams. Also, they set some records in the Super Bowl. The most fumbles recovered in a game, which was 2 recovered by Jimmy Jones. Also, most points scored in the fourth quarter at the time. Well, I think that's still the record, which was 21. Also, most fumble return yards in a game, which was 64 yards, set by Leon Lett. And also, the most extra points kicked in a game by Lynn Elliott with 7. Wow, now that's something I didn't know. You learn something new every day. The reason why I picked the 1992 Cowboys here is because they were dominant on both sides of the ball. I mean, they had a top 10 offense, a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. I mean, I just read off the stats to you. That's rare today in the NFL to only give up 77 rushing yards per game, and also only to give up 15 points, because we all know in today's NFL, it favors the offense a little more to just throw it down the field. Also, this was to me, this was the best team out of all the Cowboys teams of the 90s. They just had everything going. And Charles Haley coming to Dallas definitely bolstered them into that dynasty. Also, excuse me. Also, they had a 3-headed monster on offense with Troy Aikman as the QB, Emmitt Smith, one of the greatest running backs ever, and Michael Irvin, one of the greatest wide receivers ever. And plus, Jimmy Johnson did a great job of putting together that team. But they would have won more Super Bowl titles if it not been for Jerry Jones's ego. If Jimmy Johnson would have stayed in Dallas a lot longer, who knows? Maybe they would have won 5 or 6 Super Bowls in a decade like the Patriots. Well, in a decade or more like the Patriots. All right, that's 6 down and 4 more to go. What do you think about the 1992 Cowboys? Do you think they should be on this list? Why or why not? Or do you think one of their other Super Bowl teams was better? Leave your comments in the comment section. Till next time, y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. Salute.